Hi, this is Rebecca. We're here at Sammy's Camera with Matt Fraser from Panasonic. The Panasonic LUMIX S1H 6K capable camera has just been announced, and Matt's here to introduce us to the camera. First thing we want to talk about is this 6K that everybody's going to be talking about in a camera with the form factor of a full-frame DSLR mirrorless interchangeable lens system. So let's talk about what resolutions are going to be capable in this new camera of yours.
Oh, well, thank you, Rebecca, for having us. So yes, probably the hallmark feature, the one most people are going to be talking about, is the 6K capture. And there's a few different ways we do this. One is to use the entire sensor in a 3:2 aspect ratio, or what cinematographers call open gate. So it's going to be 3:2 aspect ratio. It's 6K width by almost 4K of height. It gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility for different types of production. One example is I can frame a little wider, and then I can crop and pan within that frame in 16:9. So if I'm doing anything like a special effects shot where someone might jump out of frame on a stunt coordination, I can go ahead and recompose later on. But also there's these new generation of anamorphic lenses that use a full frame sensor. And so this is going to work with those full frame anamorphic lenses as well. And important to note, there's really only about 2 cameras that can do this right now, aside from this. And that's the Arri Alexa LF, and that would also be the Sony Venice. So it puts us in pretty rarefied company.
In addition to this, another thing that the GH5, GH5S have been very, very popular for are their high frame rates, their variable frame rates, the ability to do slow motion. S1, S1R have some of these capabilities, but tell me what the S1H will be able to do.
Yeah, I think some people had a misconception about where the S1 was supposed to be versus the S1H. The S1 doesn't have that VFR function that they're used to in the GH5. Don't worry, the S1H has all of the variable frame rate functionality that you came to expect in a GH5. So you have the 180 frame per second capability. On top of that, you actually get what we call our high frame rate function. Now these are native codecs. That means that when you record at 48 frames, it's going to play back at 48 frame and you'll have to slow it down in post. If you do 120 frame, it's going to be a true 120 frame, which means you'll slow it down in post if you want to slow it down. Or for those of you who have a Twitch channel and you're also transferring to YouTube, you can actually have native 120 1080 footage to intercut with your gaming that's at 120 frames per second to give it that super hyper realistic look. And the best part is with the high frame rate functions, these are 10-bit versus the VFR, which is only 8-bit, and you get autofocus and you get full audio recording. So you have that functionality to either get fast, quick slow-mos that are already slowed, or have a quick and dirty time lapse, which is the VFR function, or you can get a proper cinematic slow-mo from the 120 or 48 hertz native codecs.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know we've been getting a lot of questions about that. People doing slow motion, here you go. S1H is going to be your next camera. In addition to the slow motion, we did some testing in low light. The S1 already has established itself as a full frame camera with some really excellent low light capability, very low noise, excellent dynamic range. Have you made any improvements on that for the S1H?
No, I'm joking, yes. So one of the biggest distinctions with the S1H over the S1 is that we're offering what's called dual native ISO. So a sensor by design has one sweet spot where it's got its maximum dynamic range and its least amount of noise. And the problem is when we go above that, we start adding noise. We go below that, we start to lose highlight information. So what we've done is we've put 2 analog stages in the camera. We have one for a low ISO, and in Vlog that's 640. And that means if I shoot above 640, a little more noise. If I shoot below, I'm going to clip some highlight information. And then we have a second one where we literally reset to a completely new circuit. It's no more gain up. It's a brand new circuit with a higher value at 4000 ISO. Wow. And so it resets that noise. So you get, it's amazing. In fact, one of the best things you can do is try shooting in low mode first, bring it up to 4000, and while shooting or while monitoring on an external monitor, quickly turn on the high node and you will see the image literally clean right up as we switch to that high circuit. It's a very impressive system, and this helps us to then push that high ISO point even higher up because we're starting gain at a completely new point.
A lot of us are going to be using, or a lot of you out there, you're going to be using this with an external Atomos recorder. Can you tell us what additional features taking the recording out of the camera will open up for us?
Okay, so there's what we can do today, and there's what we can do in the future. So today we can capture 60 frame 4K over HDMI in 10-bit 422 color. Now, it's important to note you can still record internally 4K 60p 10-bit. It's just 420 color. So you're going to get a little more color information by going to an external recorder. We have announced a plan to incorporate RAW over HDMI. And as we get closer to launching that feature, we'll give you more particulars on what it will support for RAW. But that's absolutely in the planning stage.
That's also, again, putting you almost in a league of your own here. So talk to me about the vlog that you have in this camera. Something unique about the S1, in case you didn't know, the S1 has the same Varicam vlog that your higher-end cameras have, which is essentially giving it more dynamic range than similar cameras?
Well, ultimately, the sensor gives us that extra dynamic range. You know, it's a larger sensor, the photo sites are bigger, so better low light sensitivity, more dynamic range. But the problem is your log profile has to be able to accommodate that extra dynamic range. Vlog L, which is what's in the G series, is tuned to the limited dynamic range of a Micro Four Thirds sensor, which is still 12 stops. But when we go into an S1 or an S1H, we have a bigger sensor, we can now give you 14 plus stops of dynamic range. It's effectively the same dynamic range as the Varicam has. So it puts it into cinema camera territory.
All right, so again, this is Rebecca at Sammy's. I'm here with Matt Fraser from Panasonic. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to come out and talk to us about the S1H.
Yeah.
And it looks like we get a sneak peek at the camera too.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. Obviously, Panasonic, we value our partnership with Sammy's. It's wonderful that you give us a chance to preview these products with your customers. And hey, come on into Sammy's and give it a try. I think you're going to love it.
Again, thank you, Sammy's Camera in Los Angeles. If you want to see more of our content, we're going to try to get as many of these sneak peeks as possible. You want to make sure you follow our YouTube. Go to sammyscamera.com.